I'm Megan DeFord.
And I'm Richard Talafera.
We're both coaches, and we're teaming up to have the kind of conversations we have with our clients. The sometimes messy, always meaningful, what now questions we all face.
In each episode, we'll take on a question or challenge about work, purpose, and all the spaces in between.
Think of it like the show Frasier, but with less neuroses and more real-world coaching.
So let's dive in.
Richard, hello.
Hello, Megan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very well. It's spring here. I'm starting to get out and get my morning walks in and feeling happy that the leaves are back on the trees again.
Yes, that is great. Well, we are talking success today, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
And why don't you kick us off a little bit of how we came to this topic and what made you think of it?
Sure. And, if you're a basketball fan, you know of Tim Duncan, the Hall of Fame basketball player, power forward from the San Antonio Spurs. His nickname was the Big Fundamental, and he won 5 NBA championships, 2 MVPs, and I've always had an affinity for Tim because he was sort of always strikes me as sort of the flip side of what success looks like. If you think of NBA players, sports people, you think of all the houses, all the cars, all the vacations, like the airplanes, the sneakers, the watches, the whole deal. But if you look at Tim Duncan himself, he's the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have he's not on social media. When he retired about 10 years ago, he kind of sort of disappeared almost. And I was watching a video about him and his way of showing his success, which really is not flashy at all. And he's a guy who caught a lot of flack in the 2000s for dressing very normcore, baggy pants, oversized plaid shirt, backpack around, looked like a middle schooler going to school. And the thing that's always struck me with him is that he has defined his own way of an idea of success.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks vastly different from everybody else. And he has resisted the pressure of looking like he's quote unquote successful. Whenever you see him, we'll see him in San Antonio, and you'll see him at the HEB, the grocery store there, just in shorts and flip-flops sometimes. Yeah. And we have, I think, pretty funky definitions of what success is. But my main question, my main idea is, when it comes to success, is it our own definition of success or somebody else's idea of what success should look like for us?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is a combination of both, possibly, but ultimately you have to define success for yourself.
Yes.
And it's also a question of, do I want this or am I just good at it? I think that's part of the conversation as well. You sent me a video. I don't know if it's the same one that you watched on Tim Duncan. And I had no idea his excellence at swimming. I had no idea how he got into basketball. I thought it was really funny. They said that if you think that you see Tim Duncan in line for a discount, it's Tim Duncan in line for a discount, right? And my main takeaway was, I only knew him as the basketball player. I didn't really know anything about him. And my main takeaway was he was someone, or is someone, who is so grounded in himself that is the success. He gets to define what he wants and doesn't want. And the through line of this is he still made a ton of money. His contract was over $200 million. So you don't have to necessarily separate certain things like money or whatever trappings of success, I guess. If you want those things, that's fine, but that can't be the definition of success. A Lamborghini cannot be the definition of success. That may be an outcome that you want from it, and I think people get that mixed up. And I think it also goes back to that identity work.
Yeah, because it feels like, people, you sometimes, maybe you see somebody with a Lamborghini and you wonder who are they without that Lamborghini?
Mm-hmm.
We think that external marker of success is it for us. But the thing is, when the Lamborghini breaks down, when the house needs repair, when you stop collecting shoes, when all of that goes away, what do you have? And at that point, you have to really understand, what does internal success look like for you? How do you define it outside of what other people, especially the people you don't know on social media, for example, how do you define that? And what steps are you taking to find that out?
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I've spent most of my career in fundraising, and I've worked with millionaires and billionaires multiple times over,
Yeah.
millionaires and billionaires. And just saying that immediately, I think people are like, oh, that person's really successful, right? And I don't want to discredit the hard work of them. And it's interesting to me because the vast majority of the people that I worked with, the donors I worked with, were very nice people. I'd say like 90% of those people I could have over to my very modest house and not even bat an eye, right? Like they'd be very comfortable, whatever. And some of them came from very affluent backgrounds, some of them were self-made. But the through line of each of those individuals is that they understood exactly what you just said. Without the money, without the house, without the company, without the title, without the yacht, the helicopter, the private jet, all these things, right? Wow, that person's so impressive. Their dad died of cancer. Their kid got sick. It's that human experience. They have a relationship with their kid. It's those things that are the markers of success. And sometimes that was hard earned. I think exactly what you said, outside of all the things and the ideas of success that we project out, internally, we have to understand that we define our own success. And if you had none of those things, how do you define success for yourself? And, the other thing too, and I was sitting in a meeting the other day, it was a government update meeting, and I was looking at the facts and figures. They're going through this deck, and it's like, pick up 78 million pounds of trash per year. And you're like, wow, that number is really big. It sounds impressive. I don't know what that means. Like, is that a lot? Is it a little? And so I also think you have to get underneath all of it. You have to question all of it. There's a lot of people here in Boca Raton who have Lambos and Porsches and Ferraris, and we're also like the scam capital of the US. Like the amount of debt here is like insane, right? So again, you can see someone in a Lambo that's like super awesome, and you have no idea if they are up to their eyeballs and that car is about to be repossessed. So
exactly.
it's looking under the surface of the things.
They could be eating ramen for all we know, right? That person with the Lamborghini, but they have to show the world that they are someone, that they are somebody. But when that Lamborghini gets repossessed, then what?
Or it's just you and the Lambo at night, it's like
Exactly.
And I think sometimes we just get so swept up into the expectation. And let me tell you something, I love a private jet. I love a nice, like I'm not turning down a Ferrari, right? But like reality is like, so I'm not like trying to demonize money. I'm not trying to demonize, right? As long as it's not filling a hole. But I think once you get into that, whether it's lifestyle creep or just you are now in the system and you go and everyone around you is doing the same thing. So it's hard to step back and say like, hey, whoa, what's going on here when you're on your second home in the Hamptons? Like, what's going on here? I'm at the second home in the Hamptons. I've made it, but you're also taking calls all weekend. Like so I think there's also like the people in the environments that you surround yourself with can really warp that sense.
Yes, because who is the team around you that is helping you understand what your success is?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be formal.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be coaches, but it could be.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just a friend from childhood who remembers you trying to do that trick that you see in A Christmas Story where you put your tongue against a frozen pole. That kind of friend. Do you have that kind of friend who's a check on you, who keeps you grounded, who remembers those days? We're so much products of the people around us, and that sometimes we see other people, we see like the Joneses around us, and we want to chase what the Joneses have.
Right.
There's this great song by Boz Scaggs called Low Down. And he's got a line in there that says, running with the Joneses ain't where it's at. And it's healthy to remember that sometimes those Joneses don't have your own success at heart. It's trying to find those moments of stillness where you can hear yourself think and feel and ask yourself questions about, okay, I've got this Lamborghini, it's great. And what else do I have going on?
I think what you're hitting at is this idea of performative success. And if everyone's chasing that performative success, performance is the measure. And I think it's also this idea of the danger of undefined success, right? Like, if you're not defining it for yourself, if you don't even like yourself, or you don't like the things in your life, how do you take that step to confront it versus filling it with more things?
Exactly. It's like, who are you being as you are trying to achieve that success? And are you being the person that you actually want to be, as opposed to, like you said, that performative aspect, being what other people think you want to be? Because some of it comes down to not wanting to disappoint other people and not putting on that mask for other people. They expect you to show up in a certain way, and you don't want to disappoint them. And it's also, I think, there's an aspect of courageousness, I think, in it as well, when it comes to, can I be myself regardless of what people are saying about me, how people might feel about me, how people might think that I'm not being the archetype of success. Going back to Tim Duncan and him leading a very quiet lifestyle, you rarely see him in a suit and tie, for example. You rarely do. Even in his Basketball Hall of Fame induction, he did get dressed up, but he didn't have a suit and tie on, for example. And there's also the aspect of how people expect you to act as peacocking almost. And you're not going to get that from Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
You're just not. We have weird expectations about how we expect people to react emotionally to things. And for Duncan to always react the way he is and to always show up the way he does, that to me speaks to a lot of inner confidence in himself.
And it speaks to knowing who you are and being grounded in your values, which I love talking about, and really understanding your values. I worked with a donor who you could pass him on the street, not think anything of him, and very successful person. He ran a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund for over 20 years, has an incredible spouse, really, really strong relationship there, strong relationship with his kids. His kids are independent and doing well, and just lives a life that you're like, wow, and he was known as the nice guy of Wall Street. I mean, what a reputation to have. And at the end of the day, you could ask him a million questions about his success. And what became very, very clear in meeting him quickly is he understands who he is and his values. And he's not going to go around those things and sacrifice who he is and how he wants to live in order to achieve another buck or, that sort of thing. And again, lives a very, very comfortable life, very comfortable life, and is in a
Imagine,
position
yeah,
in retirement
yeah,
where he can do whatever he wants to do. And what a wonderful way to have gotten there with his character intact and his identity intact. And I
yeah,
think that's what you're saying about Tim Duncan. Like, he knows who he is. He
absolutely.
doesn't have to put on a show, doesn't have to put on airs.
Mhm.
And I think the other question around this as well is, when you are gaining whatever your definition of success is, right? It feels good, right? And so how do you keep that in check? Like, it's good to celebrate success. Everybody wants to be successful.
Yes.
How do you, like,
Mhm.
check yourself and check in with yourself that, like, this is still a good thing, this is still what you want, especially, and we've been talking very materialistic, capitalistic kind of thing, but let's
Yeah.
say you've been really successful and all of a sudden you turn around and you've got 12 employees, and that's all really good. Is it what
Yeah.
you want? And I'm
Good
curious
question.
your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's comes down to like it's like is well, first thing that came to mind was yes, celebrate your successes. I think a lot of times it's too easy sometimes to not celebrate that success, keep your head down and just keep working your fingers to the bone. So every so often, yeah, if you get a success, pop your head up and say, we did it. Did a good job. And I think one way to keep that check on yourself is I'm going to go back to who's in your circle. That's really key. We don't do these things alone. I know there's a very popular idea of the self made person, but that person had mentors, lenders, spouses, family members supporting them.
And failures.
It's not a bad thing to have failures as long as you learn the lessons from them. I had a boss who years ago used to say, make new mistakes. Make sure that if you're repeating the same mistake again, there's a problem that you have to look at, that you really have to look at. And as a business person, as an athlete, as somebody who's trying to gain a modicum of success, I think as you are working with and talking with your team, your group of friends, your community, I think really taking time alone for self reflection is important. You can go off, have your self reflective moment or, time, like maybe you do knitting, go for it. Maybe you do running, go for it. Maybe you write, go for it. Having some place where you can see and feel and know what you're thinking and how you're feeling about your success is key, because you're not a robot. Well, we're both solopreneurs.
It's a grind.
It's a grind. And taking time away from that grind, taking time away from the screens and the phone calls, and even if it's just a 20-minute walk around the block, make it happen without the phone, without the screens, so you can hear yourself. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Give yourself the space to do that.
It's hard to be alone with your thoughts, baby. Like, it is hard. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of us avoid that. I think that's part of it. I think for the materialistic side, I think we get caught in, I have to maintain this, which means I have to work harder and do more and support it. And then I want to come back to something that we've talked about a lot, that you started this with, is the idea of being in community. And especially as I would say Gen X and younger has gotten away from, like, traditional religious organizations, or, even the workplace is so different now. You're at
Very different.
home oftentimes, and we've just really have this sort of individualistic society in a way we haven't had before. You have to seek that out. To your point, it's great to be
Yes.
alone. You need to be alone with your thoughts. You need to process things. You need to understand when things feel uncomfortable and maybe why they feel uncomfortable. or great, right? Celebrate those things on the flip side. But we need friendships. We need community. We need all of that to help us with guardrails. I think on either spectrum. Now you're going off in a different direction that isn't healthy for you. So I can't emphasize that enough. Like I have a friend, my friend Matt. They're always fun yaps with my friend Matt. But he is the person I can call and say, check me on this. And I know he's not going to tell me what I want to hear. Like he will, and he loves me, and it's always kind and respectful, but he'll be like, yeah, bitch, go apologize. Like, and we need people like that in our lives. We need people like that who see us at our lowest and just love us, and who see us at our highest and just love us. And like in the middle of all of that, because they love you, are acting in your best interest, even when that's checking you, and saying like, hey, what's going on here? So I think I can't agree with you more on that. It's just so important.
It's so important. And again, another thing I like about Tim Duncan is that he's an introvert like me. You can tell. And even us introverts still need community. We still need to plug into our buddies who are in our group run, run group, or having a friend, for example, for me, having a friend like Dee, who I can call up and she will give it to me straight. It's way too easy to be hyper independent, especially nowadays. It really feels that way. And having somebody who you said loves us and is going to be straight with us is so important. It's really important. And I think especially for us introverts, we have to be intentional about finding that community, finding that one person or two people who they get us, they understand us, and they'll call us out on our BS. Because we all have blind spots.
Of course.
And that person, can help us see those spots that we can't always see. No problem.
So I'm also curious about your thoughts, and this gets back to that performative factor of we are engaging in less physical community. But we have social media and online community. And I do think that there's a lot of value in it. But I also think there's the flip side of either echo chamber mentality, this idea that like I'll flaunt my house that looks amazing, but I'm actually just house sitting, right? There's this great Sex in the City episode where Carrie goes to LA and she hooks up with this guy and she thinks he's like a millionaire and it's this incredible house. And they wake up together the next morning and he's actually just house sitting for somebody. It's so great. But not everything that glitters is gold. But at the same time, we can find community online. So I'm just like, I'm curious about your thoughts about that.
I'm thinking right now about there's an author and runner by the name of Steve Magnus, and he has a podcast with Brad Stolberg. And Steve talks a lot about doing real things in the real world. And there's a lot of value in seeing some things on social media and building connection that way. And that's not enough. You've got to go out and meet people, have conversations with people. And often we talk about friction. And we need that friction of meeting people, stumbling a little bit in conversations, being curious. And I think having more real world interactions is a benefit for us. And our phones make it a little too safe to have to get into conversations, even get into arguments with people. It's one thing to get into a pissing match with somebody if you're on their phone. It's another thing entirely if you are sitting across from them in a restaurant. So we really do benefit from that social, that actual real life social interaction, because we can get maybe a little too narcissistic, just sort of sitting in front of our computers and our screens and thinking that everything's about us. Then you go out into the street, you go to the farmer's market, other side of town, and you see people living their day-to-day lives. And that's one of those things that can keep you grounded, because when you have a lot of material success, there's this notion that I have to be protective of that success. You've got the success, you've got all the material things. Do you have the trust in yourself in order to continue that success?
Yeah.
I think that's an underrated question that needs to be asked.
It's a beautiful question. Absolutely, it is. And I guess the flip side of this, and I wrote about this recently in my newsletter, was the fear of success.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I think my feeling on it, and essentially what I said was, I think sometimes we fear success because we have to step into this new identity. And sometimes maybe not even leave things behind, but we're stepping into a new part of ourself. And I think sometimes we get stuck with that. But I also think your point of self-trust is a big piece of it. Can I trust myself with this success?
And again, going back to community and plugging into community as a check on yourself. When it comes to fear of success, it's like, yeah, it is scary, because it's like, am I worthy of the success that's could be coming my way? And if you have a lot of self-doubt, and that can hold you back from achieving what you want to achieve, not just for yourself, but for others as well. And I think one way to maybe look at that is to think of it as, if you are scared of success, if you are scared of becoming successful, that's selfish, because you've got a lot of gifts to give to the world. And rather than holding them in, let them go. Let them go into the world. I saw the first female trainer to win the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
Saw a picture of her wearing a hat that said, "I'm not for everybody." And I think that's something that holds us back too, is that we think that we're not for everybody. We want to be for everybody, but we can't. Yeah. So,
but as long as we like ourselves, it's important.
And that's what it is. Yep.
I think the other thing too, and I was thinking about this with my kids recently, and we go into school, and school is great. School's important, but we're measured on tests. We're in a curriculum. You're going through your different grade levels. And one of the first questions you ask kids, and you keep asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think it's the wrong question. I think the question is, what is really exciting to you? What are you really interested in? What are you curious about? But I think in school, we start defining success as your job, and your job is your title and salary. And it's a natural question, right? It's like,
there's the adult version of that question, which is, what do you do? Right? What do you do? Because it's a natural question. It's an icebreaker if you're going to a networking event and whatnot.
Yep.
But your question is great. And it echoes what I've heard another podcaster say, which is, instead of asking, what do you do? Is, what's exciting to you right now?
Yeah.
That's a show-stopping question. Because, I mean, how many times do people ask you that question at an event?
Right.
That particular one. Not many. And sort of like, okay, it makes you think about what you do in a different light.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it tells you more about that person than a title, their zip code, anything. And there's always these indicators, right? And again, I feel like I'm hyper aware of it because of the world I was in. It's like, okay, we need to talk,
Yeah.
I wasn't sitting there going, oh, they're a good person. I'm sitting there going like, oh, you have 3 houses, your kids, you've got 4 kids in a school where it's $70,000 a year. You have an extra, you have a boat. That tells me nothing about that person's character. That tells me that person has a capacity for a gift of a certain size if they're interested, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, asking anyone what's interesting to them tells me more about them than any of the stuff that they have. And I think this gets into maybe our last point, if you're ready to go there, of like, how do you define success for yourself? Is it the things, or is it all the other stuff that we've been talking about in terms of your values and what you're interested in? And can you pursue that?
In the past couple of years, as I've been a coach, it's sort of having, I wouldn't say two conflicting things at the same time, but I'm having two definitions of success for me. One is the ability to work remotely. That's it, more so than having six figures and doing a lot of speaking and all that. Just being able to work from Santa Fe, New Mexico for a couple weeks. Love it out there. Cool, such a cool place. And just that, more than having a car or a house, is important to me. That ability to just like go, okay, I'm gonna take off for Santa Fe or Seattle or wherever for 2 weeks and just work from there. And the other thing is with the people that I work with. I love the people I work with. I want to see them successful. And at a certain point, I want the people I work with to graduate from my care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I'm always going to be there for you as a coach. You need me to come in, you got my number, you got my email. Let's talk. But I want for my clients to have the self-efficacy and the agency that's sort of been buried for the past 15, 20 years or whatever. To me, seeing them thrive is success for me. What about you?
Yeah. I think I was thinking about this, and I do think you have to define success for yourself as a whole, but then in also other areas of your life. And I think having the ability to determine what I do with my time is the greatest indicator of my success.
Amen.
And for me, the riches, and again, I'm never going to turn down money. I just want to like put that out there, right? Like I believe money solves a lot of issues, but it can solve.
Yes.
But I have never felt richer in my life than being able to have a cup of coffee in the morning and watch a baby duck family for 15 minutes and not stress out about having to get to a meeting really fast or whatever. Like it is engaging with life on my own terms, and that is the time factor. And that to me is such a gift. And I used to think busyness was part of being successful. And now sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just having the opportunity to take a minute and watch the hummingbird feeder because it's that season or whatever. So, and it doesn't have to be bird related, but but I do live in a beautiful area with a lot of cool birds. So it's nice to be able to engage in life and do those things and be able to say like, yeah, I can coach my daughter's soccer team. I get to choose that. I feel very lucky. Not everybody gets to do that. And I work hard at it. I worked for that. People who don't have that luxury who work extremely hard as well. So I don't want to discount that, right? But that's a marker of success for me. I think, as a kid, I always heard relatives, oh, your health is the only thing that matters. And as I age, I'm like, oh my God, my health is success, right? And for me, I want to be able to continue to do and be active as long as I live. And that's really important for me. And so my health and my ability to be active as much as possible, whatever that looks like, is success for me. And very similarly to you in terms of career, and whether it's previous roles that I've had, this current role, who knows what I'll be doing in the future, coaching now, who knows what I'm doing in the future, maybe a bird watcher, professional bird watcher, I don't know. But it's really simple. It's like leaving the world a better place than when I found it.
Yeah.
And I try and do that. I think I've done a fairly good job, not perfect, But in our practice of coaching, the hardest part and the most satisfying part is when you go to like every month, once a month with a client, or you know what? You've got my number, call me. You've got this. Go use the
Yeah.
tools. You've got
Mhm.
this. And it's wonderful and it's bittersweet because I miss them, right?
Yeah, because you built a
You built
relationship
a
with them
relationship.
over
But the
a number of
coolest
weeks.
part is that ripple effect, right? And that person's going to go out in the world and do amazing things and it's going to ripple. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to influence.
It's why we both came into this profession, is because we want to see people be happy
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Yeah.
And succeed on their own terms.
Yes.
Succeed on their own terms. And I don't know about you, but most of the clients that I see, a lot of their pressure points come from trying to live someone else's definition of success.
Yep.
When you can start to untangle yourself from that, and maybe it looks very similar, but now it's on your own terms, that's when the magic really starts to happen. And defining whatever success is for you, defining that and having it rooted into something real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And even
Yeah.
just societal expectations. I mean, I know I'm really careful with my language around my kids. I'll say, like, if you decide to have kids, if you decide to get married, like really allowing them the space
To make their own decision.
yeah.
Right.
And I think that's really important for ourselves as well. Like you may define success one way today, and in 10 years, it might look different. Give yourself that space.
Yes. Give yourself that space and that permission to change your mind.
What should we leave listeners with if they're maybe listening to this and are like, yeah, what are my markers of success? Or do I need to revisit my idea of success? How would you maybe guide a client who's in that situation?
I would ask them, like, what's really important to you? What's important to you? Not
Mhm.
necessarily your spouse, your business partner, your family, but you. And what do you think that you need to do to achieve that measure of success?
Mhm.
And then we can have a conversation about, okay, what are the steps that I can help you take to get there? And again, at the end of the day, it's about that person and where they want to go and not where their buddies think they want to go. It's giving people permission
Yeah.
back to chart their own lives.
I think for me, and this is no surprise, it goes back to your values of like, what are your values and why are they your values? I think another question we all should be asking ourselves more is like, okay, when you achieve this thing, whether it's a goal, whether it is a tangible thing, right? Who are you after that? And I think that's a more difficult question to ask yourself. Is this goal going to be transformative in a way that's positive if that's part of the goal, right? Like, what is this? How is this serving you? How is the success serving you? And that might be able to help you understand it a little bit more.
I would think maybe here's maybe one last question that we
Yeah.
could probably end on. Is your success in life transactional or transformational?
Oh, I love that.
It's a good question to ponder.
And I think you're a success, Richard.
And Megan, I think you're a success too.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later.